My background is rather academic, so it's a little bit, I suppose to refer to the colleague who discovers fish, I would be the fish out of water here. I just want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in Malta and in the Institute of Tourism. In fact, it is a tourism-based institute. We're almost the equivalent of a university, which we're focusing only on tourism, hospitality, management, and whatnot. Let's see. Hello. Typical boring slide of an academic, all right? This started off in '87, and obviously the idea is that we provide courses for our industry. And recently we actually opened up a degree, a bachelor degree in dive safety. We're doing that in collaboration with Dan. Plus we have some people here who actually are on our academics. Mark is one of them. I'm sure there are others, and others who asked me that they might be interested. From Portugal, we have Manuel Preto, which I'm sure many of you know as well. And he sends his regards, incidentally. At the same time, though, our government decided that tourism is important, so we're going to have a brand new campus. In theory, including a pool, actually 2 pools. So I'm showing off a very simple diagram of a pool, which is a box and a box. Incidentally, we're going to have a 25-meter pool, a typical pool which people use for swimming, but we're also going to have a smaller pool with a side which goes to 10 meters and a side which goes to 20 meters. And perhaps that makes things a little bit better. The idea is that obviously we'll be doing certain training, which at the moment we can't do in confined water. So hopefully we'll have that in a few years' time. I'm not going to speculate when it will be ready, but apparently we're trying to have it done in 3 years. We're having a little dive center. We already have one at the moment in Gozo, so we have a literally dive center with a compressor and everything, mainly for teaching purposes. So obviously all our students get first-hand experience of doing whatever they've been asked to do. We're doing this because we're working with Dan. Many of you obviously know Sandro Marroni. This idea of this course was actually his idea originally. And we actually teamed up because, as some of you know already, diving is quite significant as a tourism industry in Malta. And together we created this School of Dive Safety and Medicine, which is nothing but an entity where ITS and then collaborate together and develop academic courses. One of them is this degree, although we also have other things going on, as we will see. Just to put things in perspective, 5% of all the people visiting the Maltese Islands specifically come to dive. In fact, we have, I think, around 60 dive centers on an island which is 17 miles by 6, so we're quite small. Definitely those dive centers wouldn't survive by the Maltese divers. It just doesn't make sense. I put a bit of numbers there, otherwise I'm not an academic. Tourism is very significant for our economy. Some say it's more than 27%, some say it's a little bit less. Definitely it's more than the average for other economies. So obviously if for us tourism doesn't work out, we have a problem essentially. And the advantage of the diving sector is that it's a niche market and considered to be, sort of above average in terms of revenue generated and so on and so forth. Some of you dive there. Some of you know that we also have technical diving going on. I mean, Michael has been doing a great job advertising us all over the globe and elsewhere. Thank you, Michael. We found other sites being opened up. However, and this is where I put on my academic hat again, we're lacking a little bit of data there. We're having everything grouped up. Even if you take the tourism authorities, they tell you, yes, 5%. 150,000 people a year come to dive in Malta, yes, but how many are former recreational divers, technical divers? We have free diving. In the past 5-6 years, free diving has become another market in itself. I personally know about 4 or 5 dive centers, let me call them dive centers if I may, who focus exclusively on free diving. They do nothing else. So that's where we have sort of this lacuna in a way. We have lots of drive to attract divers to Malta. I mean, we've set up artificial wrecks, we opened up new places, we opened up some fantastic technical dive sites, and so on. And at the same time, though, we're sort of a little bit, right, who's coming, why are they coming? And I've been doing this research in my former place of employment as well, but now obviously we can focus a little bit more. And through the degree that we're doing, obviously students have to do some sort of a research project. I'm just put them down there just to share them, really. These are ideas which students themselves came with. Marine archaeology and tourism. Near misses. For the record, many of our students are actually divers. Some of them run businesses themselves. So they also have this sort of practical knowledge with years of experience in the industry as well. Risk management, gas quality, which I'm sure you know much more than me in that sense. Yesterday we were having a discussion with some of you about, for example, the media and how media record accidents, something which we found, one of my students found, like all accidents, I was talking with Adam this morning, death by drowning. Yeah, if you fall in the bath, it's death by drowning. If you go on a 50-meter dive, and it's still death by drowning. I mean, there's no distinction about the way data is being collected. There's very little distinction with the media, for example, whether was it a diver died, okay, but was it free diving? Was he hit by a boat, as it happened recently? Did he miss out something in terms of decompression, whatever? So there's a little bit of gray areas there, and for example, the way maybe media sometimes portray things locally. And this is where my students are trying to sort of do a bit of research, come up with ideas, and so on and so forth. So that said, this is the 4th year we're running this degree, so we're all relatively green here. We're also trying to take part in projects. This is one of them, the BCTHubs, in collaboration with Dan. We're in collaboration with about another 10 entities from Greece, Bulgaria, Malta, and Italy altogether. Our job will basically trying to test wearable technologies underwater. They've read some prototypes. Our students will probably try them out. We'll have other volunteers trying them out in other countries, whether they'll be, for example, doing then archaeological work, so obviously it's a bit more strenuous. They will try them out, we'll collect the data, and so on. This is something completely different. It's about, promoting conservation and sustainability through art, and probably we'll end up having some, for example, an underwater statue in some relatively small place for snorkeling or stuff and so on. So gradually we're building up momentum in that sense. But as I said, our first idea was to start with courses, giving sort of an academic twist to all that's going on in the diving industry. So we created a degree in dive safety management. We also managed to have most of the modules making up the degree also being offered as standalone courses, because we appreciate that many people in the industry maybe won't have the time to do a full-blown degree, or maybe they're not interested, but they would be interested in specific areas. So they would be able to do them, get accreditation, then whether they want to continue with all the rest and get a degree or not, that is obviously up to them. However, we're not stopping there. We're looking at postgraduate courses as well. But I'll be talking about that a little bit later. What we are trying to do, and Mark Powell mentioned something about teaching gap, not a teaching years gap, and so on. I'm not saying we're the solution, but we're definitely trying to put a huge element of practical aspects within the degree, especially in what we do and what you do every day. I mean, it's no use discussing, I don't know, gas blending unless, we actually go and get people to try it out. Even at that may be an elementary level to start off, then obviously people would continue furthering their education with specialist places and highly qualified instructors and whatnot elsewhere. So we actually have work placements. We're trying to also have work placements abroad, because we think that, especially if someone is based only in Malta, which, as I said, we're a very small island, it's a good idea to go elsewhere and maybe do some cold water diving or wherever. That said, at the moment, many of the people who are doing the degree worked abroad. So actually, some of them worked in the Red Sea, some of them were ex-military and whatnot. So actually, they're getting their own wealth of experience, and we're using that to try and keep on finding ways to add on and improve on what we have. And as I said, being academic, we would like them to also do research. This year will be also opening up collaboration in Jordan. So hopefully we'll be actually getting our first students from there as well. This is something which we believe in, so we're always on the lookout for anyone, any institution who we can work together and collaborate. Just to put you in the picture, the theory, or most of the theory part, is done online. We have lectures, as I said, either like Mark, who's in the UK, we have people in Dubai, we have actually people from South Africa as well. So we're all over, which obviously is nice because you can get specialists. On the other hand, sometimes it's a bit of a hiccup with time zones and everything else, including connection, which goes dead, and all of a sudden going on WhatsApp or on this and somehow trying to set up something and get on with it. But so far, we seem to be getting there. Disclaimer, these are not my pictures. Arkadius is here. He was somewhere, but he's not here today, I think. This is actually one of our students who is also, I think, somewhere around. This is one of the practicals that we were doing in collaboration with some of the DEN staff. On one side, you can see Ricardo Pellic and one of the students. That's like a buoy, which actually takes up acoustic signals, and then so they can get data from underwater, transmit, and then, for example, see it on a laptop. So these are things which we are trying out in relatively shallow water, 6-8 meters, but we're trying things out like that. Yesterday, I was talking to other people and others here. They were talking about Doppler. And what they're trying to do with DEN is literally take the measurements underwater. And I think someone who's here was involved as well. That's a prototype. It's a huge thing, this big. Right? Eventually, it's supposed to be this size, so people can wear it as well. So the idea is, if they're testing it on land, putting it into the housing, trying it out. Obviously, the students are also focusing on the academic side, so taking notes, see how it works, and all that. So in this case, it's not a question of they are collecting data from the medical point of view. They're just trying it out and see how the procedure works, the protocol to collect data properly, and so on and so forth. What we've learned so far, people have to be committed. And this comes from my old background, because my original background, I'm a teacher by profession, and I'm a specialist in online learning. So I know very well that it's easy to create a course, it's easy to create the blended side, but people have to find the time. And I have all my respect for all our academics who have other things to do, and somehow they still find the time to do things with our students. And similar to the students as well. Some of them have their jobs, some of them have other things or families and whatnot, so obviously trying to find the time when everyone is available is always a challenge. At the moment, our students are quite diverse. I mean, we're having course directors applying for the course. And initially I said, "What, you're a course director, what the hell are you coming here for?" And yet some of them said, "Well, we still found a few things which we didn't know." So that makes me think that maybe we're doing something proper here. But we also have people who are relatively novice to the world of diving as well. And they're using this as a way to sort of build up knowledge and so on, and which would otherwise take them years to get there as well. We've done the first run-through of the whole 3 years. So now it's the time where we're sitting down, get a couple of liters of coffee, and go over the entire course from scratch, and see what else we should add, or what you may suggest that we should add, what else we should sort of get rid of. We're already thinking of maybe we should have something related to the use of scooters, because if people are doing research underwater, it might be a good idea, you know. And but at the moment, we're just throwing ideas out, because eventually, and if anyone is involved with teaching at this level, then you have to follow the rigor of an academic course. You have so many hours which you can put into. You can't have more than that, so we have to remove things, add things, compress here, add, and so on. So it's a little bit of a headache in that sense, but probably somehow we'll manage anyway. We're doing short courses. Specific. We've done one this year for people who come to work, first time working in Malta as diving instructors. So we're giving a bit of a background on, you know, like the marine life, for example, in Malta, a little bit of history. I'm saying history because if we have wrecks which are historical or Second World War, so just to give them a bit of an idea of where did they come from. Basic, maybe a little bit about, for example, local diving regulation in Malta, which may be a bit different from other countries. Little things like that. So obviously people have a bit of knowledge. We're thinking in the future of maybe dabbing our hands in the commercial diving, but to do that we obviously would need equipment. Hopefully, apart from the pool, we might have also a chamber in the new premises. And that might then give us options which at the moment we can't offer. Other things, we have our bachelor degree, but we don't have below and we don't have above. We're trying to come up with a, let me call it a diploma. Imagine people coming out of high school, you know, and they're interested in diving, and obviously they're not yet at the level for a university course, so we might come up, okay, let's see what we can do there. Based on our experience in Malta, if you want to work in diving, you have to know foreign languages. We have the UK as a big market, Italy as a big market, Germany, France, so knowing languages helps. And actually, if you go and work wherever, knowing languages will help. We had people giving us advice, saying, listen, maybe you should look in things like elementary maintenance, so people can fix things on a dive site. We're still not quite sure how we're going to do it, but we're trying to figure out and maybe talk to suppliers and technicians and come up with something which we can do. Again, the idea is that maybe if they do a 1 year in school, learning languages, learning, for example, basic customer care, learning how to use social media for marketing, because this is what we'll be doing in the future, then you have a 1 year internship with a dive center in Malta or maybe abroad, so you can actually practice, and you practice under the mentorship of experienced instructors. and who can obviously then further and help you put to practice what we try to preach. But since I think I have this habit of trying to complicate my life, we're also looking at master's programs. For those who are not familiar with EQF, EQF is the European Qualification Framework, so a master's would be a level 7, and so on. We had this discussion with other people as well, and those are some of the ideas we're floating at the moment. So obviously the focus will still be on dive safety protocols applied, but for example applied in marine archaeology. Now I know that some people here have been working with Timmy Gambin and they've made a fantastic piece of work there. But we'll sort of be a little bit more sort of generic and say, all right, look, if you're doing maybe marine biology, this is what you should learn or know what to do. Maybe you are a biologist, but you never did anything marine, for example. Or you'll be a specialist, so you'll be employed to do it by others. These are just ideas we're floating at the moment. We're not really, we have the ideas there. We're going to start putting things on paper. Obviously, we'll be consulting with specific specialists, whether it's underwater heritage, whether it's marine biology, I don't know, forensics, for example, and others which are not written down there at the moment. That's pretty much what we're trying to do. We did some things are working, some things are working not as we would have liked them to working. Yesterday I was talking about learning outcomes, and we always say that there are the intended learning outcomes, which is fine, and then there are the unintended ones. And sometimes you start wondering whether the unintended ones may actually be more relevant to the people, because they might actually be things that they will be actually using in their daily work routine, for example. So hopefully, from what we're gathering from our students and from people like you here, we'll sort of try and do our best to provide something which is actually useful for people working in the diving industry, whether it's the tourism, which is from where we started, all the way to scientific and other areas. Thank you very much.